So I wrote a eulogy, but that was not what I intended to do. So as some of you know, some of you may not, my grandfather passed away a week or so ago now, and the day after it happened, actually the morning after, I sat down at the table and just started writing words, one word, phrasings, those sorts of things that described my papaw to me. And if you're anything like me, you have probably taken notes in classes. You have probably written all kinds of things down in shorthand and then realized later that you have no idea what you wrote down because it doesn't mean the same thing that it did to you when you wrote it down. Instead of just writing down these phrases and these words, I started to elaborate on what this word meant, what this phrase meant. And so, again, didn't know exactly what this was going to become. However, on Tuesday morning, I sat down, wrote down what came to my mind so that I could remember it. And so ended up loosely titling it Menace Collins, A Life Lived. Here's what I wrote. My family has lost a bit of the glue that held us all together. Literally, I would not be standing here today if it were not for this man. I think I've said this a number of times, and if I continue breathing, I'll probably say it again in the future, but I think Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, said an absolute mouthful of truth when he said that joy wouldn't feel good if it wasn't for pain. So, during this time of hurt, I'm going to try my best to focus on finding joy. My papaw was many things to our family. My papaw was a weightlifter. You may not have known that by looking at him, but he was. He didn't lift weights in a gym. However, he sure didn't miss an opportunity to pick up his grandkids and great-grandkids. Every single time, he'd let out a big grunt and say, "Oh, you're heavy." We're also losing a coach and a shade tree. Sometimes he did both of these things at the exact same time. I remember a specific instance when we were at a ball field working on hitting. My papaw was out in the outfield catching balls, sending them back to Dad as my father fed the pitching machine. However, one of us grandkids did not enjoy the fact that there was no shade found on baseball fields. So to beat the heat, this kid decided that he would take refuge in my papaw's shadow. Papaw then became a shade tree, but he didn't mind. Wherever he went, the rest of that practice, he had two shadows, and they followed him wherever he went. And while I do not condone this particular behavior, because I think tickling falls under the category of cruel and unusual punishment, there's two ladies left behind that are losing their favorite victim of their torturing ways. I can count on one hand the number of times that I didn't hear him say, "Oh," whenever we would all get together. That was his reaction to being tickled. He said that he hated being tickled. However, deep down, I actually think he kind of enjoyed it. My papaw was also an artist of sandwiches. Most of y'all know that my papaw was not much of a cook, so it may come as a shock to you that we always had a very shortened menu when we would stay with him during the summer while my mama was working. So it was mostly either Pizza Hut or bologna sandwiches, and as kids, we loved it. So at the time, we didn't realize the sandwiches were made with a special ingredient, and that was love. It wasn't until years later that I was able to see the simple bologna sandwiches for what they were. They were his best, and they were made with love. They were enough, more than enough. My family is also losing a do-withouter and a sharer. Parents often fight many silent battles, and sometimes we have to bend the truth a bit to make sure that others' needs are being met. You know, things like, "No, I'm not hungry. You go ahead and eat that last piece." I've said it as a parent. I've heard it as a kid. I've heard it as a grandkid. So I know the truth. I know that you are actually, in fact, hungry, but you doing without is what it takes for your kids to have. So you do it. My papaw was a do-withouter. Dad used to tell us about the uncountable times, the innumerable amount of times that my papaw would give him or my Uncle Mark the last dollar in his wallet so that they could do fill in the blank. Knowing that he needed to put gas in the car, or knowing that he wasn't going to get paid for another week or two, he gave. He did without. He was also a sharer. If you ever saw him at a ball game, you had the chance to see a literal example of this on display. My mama and papa would always split their concession stand haul. It was typically cheese sticks, maybe a popcorn, and a Pepsi. And if you noticed, I said a Pepsi. That would be 2 people, 1 Pepsi. He would twist the lid off, take a drink, and whenever my mama wasn't yelling at the refs or one of us grandkids, he'd pass the Pepsi to her and she'd get a drink. However, Pepsi wasn't the only thing that he shared. A bit over 67 years ago, he decided he wanted to share his life on Earth with a little lady from Chestnut Hill. And don't you ever say that she was from Newport, because she ain't from Newport. She's from Chestnut Hill. I wasn't there, but from what I'm told, apparently he was so anxious to start sharing his life with her that he was willing to start the process of marrying when she was a freshman in high school. But she insisted she needed to graduate high school first, so my papa waited. He waited for her. Spin the wheels of time forward. 2 kids, 7 grandkids, 2 great-grandkids, thousands of washed cars, billions of leaves blown later, and that brings us here to an earthly goodbye. Every time when he was ready to go from a family function, he'd say, "Wanda, let's go." Mama was never ready, not a single time, just like none of us are ready right now, but he was. He was ready to go. So even though we weren't ready, we said goodbye. When I left him on Monday night, I told him that I loved him and I'd see him tomorrow. Somehow, I knew, and in a way I think he knew too, that tomorrow would not be Tuesday. And oddly enough, strange as it sounds, in that moment, I was at peace with that. Sorry, I can write without tears, but I can't say it without tears. The truth is, he had dealt with pain, constant pain, long enough. He dealt with aches long enough, and so tomorrow, when I see him again, he will still be doing without, only this time it'll be without shortness of breath. He'll be without aches and pains, and that is what I'm looking forward to. So I ask that you keep my family and us in your prayers, especially my mama, because she's lost half her heart and her whole life. And she's going to have to learn how to face the future alone without her helpmate. I wasn't going to put this particular writing in the newsletter. I was going to just kind of keep that for myself and for the family, but I was encouraged by a cousin to share it. And so I did. And this was a reading of last week's newsletter, and it's one that I write every week. These emails come to your inbox every Monday morning, and there'll be a link below if you would like to sign up to read these personally to your personal inbox. And also, if you think somebody could somehow benefit from reading these, hearing these, listening to these, I ask that you share it with them, because my goal is to, in some way, some form, offer encouragement and uplift people, and just let them know that it's okay to struggle, it's okay to have hurts and pains, and that we don't always get it right. So trying to be authentic and just share my heart. So be sure to check your inbox tomorrow for this week's newsletter. And with that, we will catch you in the next one.